What if a young boy from a quiet provincial town in France, with a passion for literature, philosophy, and debate, would one day become the youngest president in the history of modern France? What if a student who once dreamed of writing novels and studying great thinkers would eventually rise to lead one of the most powerful nations in Europe? This is the story of Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Jean-Michel Frédéric Macron was born on December 21, 1977, in the northern French city of Amiens. His family belonged to the educated middle class. His father was a professor of neurology, and his mother worked as a physician. Macron grew up in an environment that valued education, discipline, and intellectual curiosity. Unlike many future political leaders who focused on sports or traditional competition, Macron spent much of his youth immersed in books. He loved French literature, theater, and classical philosophy. Teachers quickly noticed his intelligence and confidence. He often stood out in class discussions, asking complex questions and challenging ideas. One of the most unusual aspects of Macron's early life involved his passion for theater. As a teenager, he joined a drama club at his school. There he developed strong communication skills, confidence in public speaking, and an ability to command attention. It was during these years that he met Brigitte Trogneux, a teacher who directed the school's theater program. Their relationship would later become one of the most widely discussed personal stories in modern European politics. After completing his early education, Macron moved to Paris to continue his studies. He attended some of the most prestigious schools in France, studying philosophy, political science, and public administration. One of the key institutions that shaped his career was the École Nationale d'Administration, known as the ENA. This elite school has produced many of France's top government officials and political leaders. Graduating from ENA opened the door to France's highest levels of public service. Macron began his professional career as a civil servant and inspector of finance in the French government. In this role, he developed a deep understanding of economic policy, state institutions, and financial regulation. However, Macron was not content with a traditional bureaucratic career. In 2008, he made a surprising move and joined the investment bank Rothschild & Co. There, he quickly proved himself to be a highly skilled negotiator and financial strategist. During his time at the bank, he worked on major corporate deals and mergers. One of the most notable transactions he helped negotiate involved the acquisition of a major food company, a deal that brought him both recognition and financial success. But despite his achievements in finance, Macron remained deeply interested in politics and public service. His political career truly began when he joined the team of François Hollande, who would later become president of France. Macron first served as an economic advisor in the presidential administration. His ideas focused on economic reform, modernization, and strengthening France's role in the global economy. In 2014, Macron was appointed Minister of the Economy, Industry, and Digital Affairs. At only 36 years old, he became one of the youngest ministers in the French government. His proposals were ambitious and sometimes controversial, challenging long-standing political traditions. But Macron was not interested in following the usual political path. In 2016, he made a bold and risky decision. He resigned from the government and created his own political movement called En Marche, which means forward. The movement aimed to break away from the traditional left versus right political divide that had dominated French politics for decades. Macron presented himself as a new kind of leader, young, pragmatic, and focused on reform. Many political experts initially dismissed his chances. He had never held elected office before. He had created a brand new political movement with little institutional support. And yet, something unusual began to happen. Millions of voters across France started paying attention. Macron traveled across the country, meeting citizens, entrepreneurs, workers, and students. His campaign emphasized economic renewal, European cooperation, and a vision of a modern France prepared for the challenges of globalization. In 2017, the presidential election arrived. Against all expectations, Emmanuel Macron advanced to the final round. When the votes were counted, the result was historic. At just 39 years old, Emmanuel Macron became the youngest president in the history of modern France. His victory represented a dramatic shift in French politics. Once in office, Macron began implementing a series of reforms. His administration focused on labor laws, business regulations, taxation, and efforts to strengthen the French economy. He also placed strong emphasis on the European Union. advocating for deeper cooperation among European nations and stronger collective leadership in global affairs. Macron quickly became one of the most visible European leaders on the international stage. He worked closely with global partners, addressing issues such as climate change, economic stability, and international security. However, his presidency also faced major challenges. Economic reforms sparked large protests across the country, including the well-known Yellow Vest movement. Demonstrations reflected growing tensions around economic inequality and the cost of living. Despite these challenges, Macron continued pushing forward with his agenda, emphasizing long-term economic transformation and technological development. In 2022, Macron achieved another significant political milestone. He won re-election and secured a second term as president of France, becoming the first French president in decades to win re-election outside the traditional political parties. From a curious student fascinated by literature and philosophy, to a banker negotiating multi-billion-dollar deals, to the youngest president in French history, Emmanuel Macron's journey is a story of ambition, bold decisions, and political reinvention. His rise shows how determination, intellect, and willingness to challenge traditional systems can reshape an entire political landscape. Whether admired or criticized, Macron has become one of the most influential European leaders of the modern era. And his story continues to shape the future of France, Europe, and global politics in the 21st century.